Before the first pharmaceutical lab existed, before the first clinical trial, before the first pill was pressed or the first antibiotic was synthesized, people still survived. They survived infections, fevers, wounds, chronic pain, and failing organs. Not by accident, not by luck, by knowing exactly which plants to reach for and exactly how to use them. That knowledge took tens of thousands of years to build. It took about 2 generations to nearly disappear. Pharmaceutical companies have since patented over 150 drugs derived directly from those same plants, drugs generating billions of dollars every year. And most of the original plants those drugs came from, still growing, in fields, gardens, sidewalk cracks, and kitchen spice racks. Free, accessible, and more effective for everyday use than most people realize. This video covers 10 of them. Not folklore, not trends, plants with documented compounds, real mechanisms, and practical uses you can apply today. 1. Stinging nettle, Urtica dioica. Stinging nettle grows along riverbanks and fence lines almost everywhere in the world. Tall, green, covered in hollow needles that inject formic acid on contact. Most people treat it as a nuisance. That's a mistake. Nettle contains quercetin, one of the most bioavailable natural antihistamines studied to date. It blocks histamine release at the cellular level before allergy symptoms fully develop. It also contains scopoletin and bioactive polysaccharides that reduce inflammatory markers in joints, which is why it's been used for arthritis management in European herbal medicine for centuries. Dry the leaves or simmer them 10 minutes and the sting disappears. Drink the tea daily during allergy season. 2. Plantain, Plantago major. Not the banana, the broadleaf plant growing flat against the ground in your driveway and local park. Oval leaves, parallel veins, completely unremarkable in appearance. Plantains spread across the globe so consistently alongside human settlement that ethnobotanists call it white man's footprint. Indigenous peoples across North America, the Ojibwe, the Cherokee, incorporated it into wound care within generations of first contact, independently arriving at the same use. The active compounds are allantoin and aucubin. Allantoin stimulates cell proliferation, accelerating skin regeneration. Aucubin is antimicrobial. Together, they make plantain one of the most effective topical first response plants known. Chew a fresh leaf briefly, press it onto a bee sting or minor cut, and hold it there. No preparation, no equipment needed. It costs nothing, it's growing near you right now, and it has been used as field medicine for longer than recorded history. 3. Yrow, Achillea millefolium. Yrow has feathery, finely divided leaves and flat clusters of small white flowers. It grows in meadows and roadsides and smells sharp and slightly bitter, almost medicinal before you've done anything with it. Named after Achilles, whose soldiers were said to pack wounds with it on the battlefield. More significantly, Yrow was found in a Neanderthal burial site in Iraq, estimated 60,000 years old. This is possibly the oldest evidence of medicinal plant use in human history. The active compounds, achillin and sesquiterpene lactones, give Yrow a specific documented effect. It modulates bleeding. Applied to a wound, it slows blood flow from small cuts. Taken as hot tea, it dilates peripheral blood vessels and promotes sweating, making it effective for fever management. 2 distinct mechanisms, 1 plant. Brew a strong tea from dried flowers and leaves and drink it hot at the first sign of fever. For cuts, press fresh or dried leaves directly to the wound. Yrow predates agriculture, predates mining, predates almost every medical system humans have ever built. 4. Dandelion, Taraxacum officinelli. Bright yellow flowers, hollow stems, the white seed globe that children blow apart. The plant every lawn care product is designed to eliminate. Every part is usable. Flowers, leaves, roots, all contain distinct compounds with distinct functions. The leaves are one of the richest plant sources of potassium available and contain taraxin, a bitter compound that directly stimulates bile production, improving liver filtration and fat digestion. The root contains inulin, a prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria and has shown measurable effects on blood sugar regulation in clinical research. 5. Thyme, Thymus vulgaris. Small leaves, woody stems, the smell of Sunday cooking. Thyme is the herb most people treat as a background flavor and never think about twice. Field hospitals in both world wars used thyme oil as an antiseptic when conventional supplies ran out. The primary compound, thymol, physically ruptures bacterial cell membranes, effective against Staphylococcus, E. coli, and Candida albicans. It's incorporated into commercial antiseptic mouthwashes and surgical scrubs for exactly this reason. The concentration differs from your spice rack. The mechanism is identical. Steep 2 teaspoons in boiling water for 10 minutes. Drink it for chest congestion. Thymol is a documented expectorant that loosens mucus in the bronchial tubes. Use cooled thyme tea as a topical rinse for minor skin or fungal irritation. You have been storing a clinically validated antiseptic in your kitchen this entire time. 6. Oregano, Oreganum vulgare. Darker and more pungent than its cultivated kitchen version. Small oval leaves, clusters of tiny purple flowers, an aggressive herbal smell that hits immediately. Medieval beekeepers planted oregano near hives because colonies nearby showed lower die-off rates and higher honey production. They couldn't explain why. What they were observing was carvacrol, oregano's primary active compound, being absorbed by the bees through their environment. Carvacrol is antifungal, antibacterial, and antiparasitic. Its most significant property, it inhibits biofilm formation, the protective coating bacteria build around themselves to resist antibiotics. This is an active area of pharmaceutical research right now. Oil of oregano, diluted in a carrier oil, can be applied to minor skin infections. 2 to 3 drops in water, taken short-term, addresses acute digestive disruption. Keep use short-term. It affects gut flora broadly if overused. Medieval beekeepers were managing antibiotic resistance 500 years before we named it. Lemon balm, Melissa officinalis. Soft, slightly wrinkled leaves that smell unmistakably of lemon when crushed. Low-growing, spreads easily, looks almost too ordinary to take seriously. Arab physicians in the 11th century called it the herb that makes the heart merry and prescribed it specifically for anxiety and sleeplessness. Paracelsus, the Swiss physician considered a founder of toxicology, called it the elixir of life. 2 cultures, centuries apart, pointing at the same mechanism. Rosmarinic acid and flavonoids in lemon balm inhibit GABA transaminase, the enzyme that breaks down GABA in the brain. GABA reduces neural excitability. When it degrades more slowly, the nervous system calms more easily. The result is measurably reduced anxiety and improved sleep onset, without sedation and without dependency. Steep fresh or dried leaves for 10 minutes and drink in the evening. For a plant that looks like a common weed, lemon balm has been one of the most consistently prescribed herbs in Western medicine for over 1,000 years. 8. Milk thistle, Celebium marianum. Tall, spined, purple thistle heads and leaves marbled in distinctive white streaks. Grows in dry, rocky, disturbed ground, roadsides, vacant lots, field edges. Hard to miss. European folk tradition associated the white leaf markings with protection and specifically with the liver. That folk association turned out to be medically accurate. Silymarin, the active flavonoid complex in the seeds, stabilizes liver cell membranes against toxin penetration and stimulates the production of new liver proteins, accelerating cellular regeneration. It is used clinically in Europe as standard treatment for poisoning by the deathcap mushroom, one of the most lethal organisms on Earth. Grind the seeds and add 1 teaspoon to a smoothie or yogurt daily. Seeds are more bioavailable than tea. The plant growing on roadsides is one of the few things that stands between a human body and deathcap mushroom poisoning. Holy basil, Tulsi. Smaller and more complex than kitchen basil, slightly serrated leaves, a scent that is clove-like and peppery. In India, it is planted outside homes and temples, treated as sacred for thousands of years. That sacred status has a functional basis. The volatile oils holy basil releases, eugenol chief among them, are genuinely antimicrobial. Studies measuring airborne pathogen counts near Tulsi plants have shown measurable reductions in bacterial and fungal spore concentration. The tradition of planting it near living spaces was, functionally, an air purification system. Eugenol is anti-inflammatory, analgesic, and antimicrobial when ingested. Holy basil is also classified as an adaptogen. It modulates cortisol regulation, blood sugar stabilization, and immune response simultaneously, not by flooding one system, by recalibrating several at once. Brew fresh or dried tulsi leaves as a daily tea. This is not a plant you take when something is wrong. This is a plant you take so fewer things go wrong. 10. Feverfew. Tennacetum parthenium. Small daisy-like flowers, white petals, yellow centers, soft feathery leaves with a bitter scent, the kind of plant most people grow for appearance and ignore for function. In 1988, a clinical trial published in the Lancet showed that daily feverfew consumption reduced migraine frequency by 24% compared to placebo, one of the first rigorously controlled plant compound trials in migraine prevention, and it held up. The active compound is parthenolide. It inhibits platelet aggregation, the same clumping mechanism that quercetin, back in Plant 1, was also targeting through a different pathway. 2 to 3 fresh leaves daily, eaten with food to reduce mild mouth irritation, is the traditional and studied protocol. Dried capsules standardized to 0.2% parthenolide are the clinical equivalent. Feverfew has been documented for headaches since the 1st century AD. It took until 1988 for a randomized controlled trial to confirm what was written down 2,000 years ago.